in Nice today, and I'm going to see quite a lot of things. The first thing I'm going to see are the Roman ruins of an ancient town known as Seminole. These ruins are located up a large hill in what is now an area of the city known as Simias. There are a lot of nice villas in this area, including this one which has been painted in an Art Nouveau style with fruit. After a little walk, I finally arrive at the park where the Roman ruins are, and I'm greeted by this imposing amphitheatre. Built in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, it would have housed gladiator fights, battles between wild beasts, and other spectacles to entertain the people of the city. Today, the entertainments to be found in the park are a little less violent. We have a museum dedicated to local artist Henri Matisse. Matisse dabbled in sculpture, as you can see here, and also collage, using scissors later in life after he had become semi-paralysed and was unable to paint on a large scale anymore. This work, which was inspired by his cutouts, is known as The Ocean, was designed to be installed in a room much like this. You can really see how the influence of the local landscape in the Mediterranean impacted his art. This piece of work by Matisse is on boards and was recently restored after being semi-eaten by insects. Matisse's work covers such a wide range of mediums. There's sculpture like this, and also drawings. The museum's collection isn't all that extensive because a lot of his works are in other places such as the US and Paris. Matisse was classically trained, and you can see in some of these paintings they're almost a traditional still life, although this work was inspired by the Fauves, a group of artists who got their name because they painted like wild beasts. You can see from this work by another member of the group that they were very interested in bright contrasting colours and non-conventional representations of the human form. Throughout his long life, Matisse dabbled in many mediums and projects, including these works for a book. His style was very influenced by the bright colours of North African fabrics, which you'll see in a second from his studio, and also by classical representations of the Roman form. I think these two pieces from his personal collection give you the core of what his art is all about. Some other works by Matisse line the walls here, including this, one of his famous blue nudes made as a collage in the 50s when he revisited the theme. While a lot of Matisse's pictures are secular, such as this odalisque, Matisse also created a chapel in Vence after he became ill with colon cancer, and a nurse, who later became a nun, helped him get better. Matisse designed everything, including the vestments for the chapel, the stained glass windows, and also large drawings for the walls. His simple style really conveys some of the elegance of the region. Next to the Matisse Museum is a museum discussing the local archaeology from the Roman period. Here we can see several tombstones and also this rather impressive statue of Mark Antony and Octavia's daughter. This was before Mark Antony was beaten by Octavian, who later became the Emperor Augustus at the start of the Roman Empire. Roman Gaul was one of the most profitable provinces of the empire, and you can see from these Corinthian columns this pleasant statue of a faun and several other high status finds that it was much more affluent than somewhere like Britain, right on the edges of the empire. In a moment, you're about to see some rather delightful Furniture fittings. Here we have what would have been the arm of the chair, with a horse's head on the end. The quality of the craftsmanship is brilliant. Here we have Mask of Silenus. It looks almost as it was when it was created. Heading outside, we found ourselves at the Roman baths. You can see from that area just ahead that the baths are still in quite good nick. This bit in particular was at one point a Paleo-Christian baptistry in the early period after the collapse of the Roman Empire. Just near the Roman baths here in Nice, in the old Roman town. Still quite a lot standing. That large building over there, which you can see as the distance, is the remains of the Frigidarium. During the Renaissance, when people didn't really know what it was, they thought it was a temple to Apollo. But in actual fact, the Romans just cared about hygiene so much that it was almost like they built a temple to it. Here we have the remains of a genuine Roman road, with a drainage ditch beneath. There would have been shops next to it, and in the distance you can see the remains of a hypocaust which would have been used to heat the baths. I now feel that I've got a pretty good handle on what Nice was like as a Roman town, thanks to this museum. It's now time to go and head somewhere completely different. That is the medieval town of Eze. Now, Eze by the sea, the new town down here, is right next to the station, but to reach the medieval town, I'm going to have to go up a very big hill. Just at the foot of the hill, let's see what lies on. Anyway, starting to get out of the lower town and up out into the countryside. On my way to the medieval village at the top. It's quite stiff going, but if you look out there, you get a great view of the Med. Well, I think I'm about halfway up the path now. Going straight up is pretty rough going as always, but it'll be worth it, I think, for the view at the top. Let's carry on. I've just seen the medieval hill village at the top a few minutes ago. It's past levelling out now. You get some of the cooler breeze as you get up into the hills, which is not as hot, which is great. And this view is fantastic. it. Pretty much the top of this viewing platform allows you to look out over the mud and you can see the surrounding countryside. Just up above is the medieval village. At this point I was really knackered. Life in this medieval village must have been pretty hard. There's only around 2,000 inhabitants here today, and there would have been less back then, and there was no running water until the 1930s, so the residents had to lug water from sources lower down the hill up. Today it's filled with little art shops and eateries for the tourists. The pride of the town is probably this large church, which was built in the 1700s. You can see the clock tower just here. It's Baroque in style, and the interior features numerous prong flooring, although I didn't film the time. Behind the church is probably the largest open space in the whole of the village, and you've got a fantastic view all the way across the valley. This is a lovely little hillside village up there. It's a really interesting medieval town, dating from the Middle Ages, when this was on the edge of the Kingdom of Savoy, between what is now Italy and France. I'm now bidding farewell to this and heading back down the mountain path. Heading back down, it's a lot easier going down.